Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Dust to Destiny, Chapter 1. Remembering death and its significance in our narrations and verses. Another widespread reason for fearing death is the sins, injustices, and impurities in one's life. We all know that after death, we face the consequences of our actions. Our deeds, whether good or bad, are laid before us. If we have sown thorns, we will reap thorns. If we have woven silk, we will wear silk. The horrors of the grave and hell are not external, they are the manifestation of our own actions. The darkness of the grave is a reflection of our injustices. The Holy Prophet ﷺ stated that our injustices will become the darkness of the day of judgment. However, if our deeds are pure, there will be no harm. There is no inherent reason for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put someone through hardship unless it is a result of their own actions. If we avoid injustice in this world, we will not face undue consequences in the hereafter. Imam Hassan alayhi salam had a friend known for his humor. When the Imam asked him how he was, he replied that his life was such that neither Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shaitan, nor he himself was pleased with it. The Imam smiled and asked for an explanation. The man said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to be obedient at all times, which he wasn't. The devil wanted him to sin constantly, which he did not. And he wished to live forever, which was impossible. Another person present asked why people fear death and always express the desire not to die. The Imam explained that it was because they had built and cherished their worldly life while neglecting the afterlife, making the prospect of leaving for an unprepared place frightening. These fears often stem from our shortcomings, ignorance, lack of knowledge, and weak faith. Therefore, these fears are not sacred. A common saying goes, if you have not committed a crime, you have nothing to fear. Similarly, if we reduce our worldly attachments and refrain from sin, our fear of death will diminish. One effective way to combat ingrained sinful habits and love for the world is to frequently remember death and listen to sermons about it. Reading certain prayers that remind us of death can also be helpful. The supplications munajat of Imam Ali alayhi salam in the Mosque of Kufa, which are very effective, are highly recommended. On the other hand, there is a sacred fear of death that some saints and pious individuals experience. Believers are said to live between hope and fear. This sacred fear is different and stems from a deep understanding and high level of faith. It is the awe of entering the magnificent presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even when meeting a revered person, one feels a natural awe despite knowing their kind. The late Ayatollah Sheikh Muhammad Taqi Amuli, a renowned jurist and mystic, once had an encounter with Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif in the Mosque of Sahla in Iraq. The experience was so overwhelming that he excused himself, pleading that he could not bear the magnificent presence of the Imam Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. This fear is due to an understanding of the divine majesty. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was once found weeping. When asked why, he explained that he feared leaving the company of righteous friends and was anxious about entering a realm where the veils are lifted, revealing the true essence of things. This fear is not about one's deeds, but about the grandeur of the journey toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some believers also fear that their deeds may not be sufficient or pure enough for the eternal journey. When Hazrat Khadija salamullahi alayha was on her deathbed, she expressed concern about whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with her. Despite her immense sacrifices and being the first woman to believe in the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, she worried about her worthiness. The Prophet assured her that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was completely satisfied with her. Such fears arise from humility and the understanding that one's deeds must be worthy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's acceptance. The late Ayatollah Burujerdi, despite his numerous contributions, wept before his death, fearing his deeds might not be pure enough. This sacred fear leads to continuous self-improvement and greater sincerity in one's actions. In summary, while some fears of death stem from ignorance, attachment, and sin, and should be eliminated, other fears are sacred and arise from deep faith and understanding. These sacred fears are constructive and encourage greater piety and sincerity. Inshallah, we will continue in the next chapter. Until then, Allah Hafiz.